In the burning Arizona desert, 5 armed outlaws thought an old man on a tired horse would be easy to scare away. But when the stranger calmly said, "Let the girl go," something in his eyes made even killers hesitate, and seconds later, the dust turned red. Who was John Cade, and why were some of the most dangerous men in the West terrified of him? Watch the full story till the end, and follow our page for more unforgettable Western tales. Before we start the story, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is right now? A hard desert wind swept across the San Pedro Valley in Arizona in the summer of 1885. The heat was merciless. It pressed down on the land like a giant hand. The dry earth cracked beneath the sun, and the endless desert shimmered beneath waves of rising heat. John Cade rode slowly through that lonely wilderness. At 42 years old, Cade looked older than his years. His face was weathered by dust, hardship, and countless miles beneath the blazing western sun. Deep scars marked his skin. His dark eyes carried a sadness that never seemed to leave. He wore a faded poncho covered in trail dust and an old hat pulled low over his brow. His horse, a sturdy bay named Midnight, moved steadily beneath him. John Cade was not looking for trouble, but trouble always seemed to find him. As he approached an old ranch near the valley, Midnight suddenly slowed. The horse's ears twitched. Something was wrong. Cade looked toward the ranch yard. 5 armed men stood in the middle of the dusty clearing, and in the center of them was a young woman. She was lying on the ground. Her dress was torn. Her face was covered in dust. Fear filled her eyes. One of the men gripped her hair in his fist while the others laughed. Cade's eyes narrowed. The woman looked helpless. The men looked cruel. For several moments, he simply watched. The leader finally noticed him. His name was Rufus. He was a large, ugly man with thick arms and cold eyes. Rufus spat into the dirt. "You're lost, old man," he called. The others laughed. Cade remained silent. "Ride away while you still can." The woman looked up. For a brief second, her eyes met Cade's. There was terror in them, but there was also hope. The kind of hope people feel when they have nowhere else to turn. Cade slowly shifted in the saddle. "The girl," he said. "Let her go." The men burst into laughter. One of them slapped his knee. Another rested his hand on his revolver. "You hear that?" Rufus laughed. "The old man wants to play hero." Cade never blinked. "Let her go." The laughter faded. Something about the stranger made the men uneasy. He didn't seem frightened. He didn't seem angry. He looked completely calm. Rufus sneered. "Kill him." The moment the words left his mouth, he reached for his gun. It was the last mistake of his life. Cade moved. His hand flashed beneath the poncho. The Colt revolver appeared as if by magic. A gunshot exploded across the ranch. Rufus collapsed instantly. The other men froze in shock. Only for a second, but 1 second was enough. Cade fired again. Another outlaw fell. A third tried to run for cover. Cade's bullet caught him before he reached safety. The 4th turned and fled. He never made it 3 steps. The 5th man dropped his gun and fell to his knees. His entire body shook. "Please," he cried. "I was just following orders." The ranch yard fell silent. 4 bodies lay in the dust. The surviving outlaw stared at Cade as if looking at death itself. Cade slowly holstered his revolver. "Take your wounded friend and leave." The terrified young outlaw didn't argue. He grabbed the injured man and hurried away. Within moments, they were gone. Only silence remained. Cade walked toward the woman. She was still staring at him in disbelief. He extended a hand. "Are you hurt, miss?" The young woman hesitated before taking it. Her fingers trembled. "My name is Eliza Vance," she whispered. Cade helped her stand. "What happened?" Tears filled her eyes. "My father sold me." The words broke from her lips. Slowly, Eliza explained everything. Her father, Silas Vance, was one of the richest ranchers near Tombstone. He cared more about money than people. He had arranged for Eliza to marry Arthur Sterling, a wealthy railroad owner nearly 3 times her age. Eliza refused, so she ran away. Her father hired the Miller gang to bring her back, no matter the cost. Cade listened quietly. When she finished, he looked toward the horizon. The sun was already beginning to fall. "There will be more coming," he said. "We need to leave." For the first time in days, Eliza felt safe. She climbed onto Midnight. Moments later, they rode away from the ranch. Behind them, vultures circled the bodies in the desert sky. As darkness settled over Arizona, the desert transformed. The brutal heat disappeared. Cold winds drifted across the canyons. Above them, countless stars filled the night sky. Eliza sat behind Cade on Midnight. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why did you help me?" Cade stared ahead. "I couldn't ride away." "Most men would have." "Maybe." The answer was simple, but something in his voice carried pain. Hours later, they reached a hidden cave tucked inside a limestone ridge. Cade built a small fire. The orange flames danced across the stone walls. He shared dried beef and hard bread with Eliza. She ate hungrily. It was the first real food she had eaten in days. As the fire crackled, they began talking. Eliza told him about her childhood, about growing up on a rich ranch that never felt like home, about a father who treated people like business deals, about the fear she felt when she learned she would be forced into marriage. Cade listened carefully. Then Eliza asked a question. "Who are you?" The old gunslinger stared into the flames. For several moments he said nothing. Finally he spoke. "I'm just a man who's made a lot of mistakes." "You don't seem like that." A sad smile crossed his face. "Looks can fool you." The fire popped softly. The wind howled outside the cave. Then Eliza noticed something. Every time Cade stared into the flames, sadness filled his eyes, a sadness deeper than anything she had ever seen. "You had a family once, didn't you?" Cade became very still. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he nodded. "I had a daughter." Eliza waited. The pain in his face said the rest. "The same kind of men who came after you," Cade said quietly. "They came while I was away." His voice cracked slightly. "I wasn't there to protect her." Silence filled the cave. Eliza suddenly understood. This wasn't just about helping a stranger. Saving her was his way of fighting old ghosts, his way of making peace with the past. "I'm sorry." Cade stared at the fire. "So am I." The next morning they continued their journey. The destination was Sanctuary Mission, an old church mission hidden far from civilization. Sister Maria ran the mission. If they could reach it, Eliza would finally be safe. But danger was already closing in. Near the Dragoon Mountains, they discovered a burned wagon train. Charred wood littered the ground. The smell of smoke still lingered. Cade studied the tracks. His expression darkened. This wasn't Apache work. What happened? Miller's men. Eliza felt sick. The gang was even worse than she imagined. Later that day, Cade spotted riders near a watering hole. He climbed a rocky ridge and looked down. A dozen armed men gathered below. At their center sat Jack Miller, the leader of the gang, a cold-blooded killer. Cade listened as Miller barked orders. "The old man is heading for the mission. Cut him off! Show no mercy!" Cade returned to Eliza. "They know where we're going." Fear returned to her face. "What do we do?" Cade looked toward the mountains. The Devil's Throat. Eliza swallowed hard. Even the name sounded dangerous. "It's our only chance." The trail through Devil's Throat was narrow and deadly. Sharp cliffs rose on both sides. Loose rocks slid beneath Midnight's hooves. One mistake could send them falling hundreds of feet. Then a rifle shot echoed through the canyon. A bullet shattered rock near Cade's head. "Down!" He pulled Eliza behind a boulder. Two gunmen waited high above. Cade quickly removed his poncho. He draped it over a bush and placed his hat on top. The snipers immediately fired at the decoy. While they focused on it, Cade crawled through the rocks. Slowly, silently, like a hunting wolf. When he finally reached them, the gunmen realized their mistake. Too late. Two quick rifle shots echoed through the canyon. The men tumbled from the cliff. Then silence returned. Cade hurried back to Eliza. "We have to keep moving." Near sunset, they finally escaped the mountains. Relief washed over Eliza. Then she noticed something. Smoke. A thick black column rising into the sky. Cade saw it too. His face hardened. They got there first. They raced toward Sanctuary Mission. The sight that greeted them was terrible. Buildings burned. Gardens were destroyed. Smoke filled the air. In the courtyard, Sister Maria and several nuns were held at gunpoint. Jack Miller stood before them. His white horse pawed at the ground. "Tell me where the girl is," he demanded. Sister Maria stood tall despite the danger. "No one is here but God's people." Miller smiled cruelly. "Then God is about to receive company." He raised his pistol. "Wait!" Every head turned. John Cade rode through the gates, alone. The setting sun behind him made him look almost legendary. Eliza remained hidden nearby, just as Cade instructed. Miller laughed. "The famous John Cade. I've heard stories about you. You're nothing but an old relic." Cade remained calm. "Let the women go." "No," Miller smiled. "I want the girl. And I want your head." The wind shifted. Smoke drifted across the courtyard. For one brief second, visibility vanished. That was all Cade needed. He leaped for Midnight. Both revolvers appeared in his hands. Gunfire erupted. Bullets flew everywhere. Men shouted. Smoke filled the air. One outlaw fell. Then another. Then another. Cade fought with deadly precision, but age had finally caught him. A bullet tore through his leg. Pain exploded through his body. He dropped to one knee. Miller grinned. He aimed directly at Cade's chest. "Goodbye, legend." His finger tightened on the trigger. Then, crack! A rifle shot rang out. The bullet struck the dirt beside Miller's horse. The frightened animal reared wildly. Miller looked away for a split second. That second saved Cade's life. Eliza stood at the gate holding a Winchester. Her hand shook, but her aim had been true. Cade fired his last bullet. The shot struck Miller squarely. The outlaw leader crashed from his horse. He hit the dirt hard and never rose again. The remaining outlaws lost their nerve. Without their leader, they fled into the desert. The battle was over. That night, the mission was peaceful. The wounded were treated. The fires were extinguished. The dead were buried. Cade sat beneath the chapel awning while Sister Maria bandaged his leg. Eliza approached carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to him. For a while they sat in silence. Finally, Eliza smiled. Most people would have ridden away. Cade chuckled softly. Most people would have been smarter. For the first time in days, Eliza laughed. The next morning sunlight covered the mission. Everything felt different, safer, hopeful. Eliza stood beside Cade on the porch. "What happens now?" he asked. "Sister Maria says I can stay." She smiled. "I'll help the children. I'll help rebuild the mission. I think I've finally found a home." Cade nodded. "I'm glad. And you?" He looked toward the endless desert. "I keep riding. Will you ever stop?" Cade thought about it, about his daughter, about the years behind him, about the road ahead. Maybe someday. But deep down he knew better. Some men belonged to the trail. He slowly mounted Midnight. Pain shot through his wounded leg. Still, he climbed into the saddle. Eliza's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, John, for everything." Cade tipped his hat. "Take care of yourself." Then he turned toward the horizon. Midnight carried him through the mission gates. Eliza watched until he became a distant shadow, then a speck, then nothing at all. The Arizona desert swallowed him once again. People would tell stories about John Cade for years. They would speak of the old gunslinger who faced impossible odds. They would speak of the mission battle, the poncho, the gunfights, the courage of a young woman named Eliza. But John Cade never cared about legends. He cared only about doing what was right. And somewhere beyond the endless horizon, beneath the blazing western sun, the old gunslinger continued riding, still carrying the memory of his daughter, still searching for redemption, still following the long, dusty road home. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way till the end. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. It really helps us a lot. If you want to watch more exciting stories like this, don't forget to subscribe our page right now. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is right now? And if this story touched your heart, please send some stars. Every single star gives us huge motivation to keep creating more amazing videos for you. See you in the next story. Take care of you, friends.